Um, let's kick off. Hello, founders. Again, it's afternoon over here, so I'll just say good afternoon. Hello, founders, and welcome to the sixth edition of Founders Thursday. I'm Blessing, and I'm the founder of the Founders Ally, and I'll be your host for today's session. Founders Thursday is hosted by the Founders Ally. At the Founders Ally, we help early stage founders build businesses that are ready for growth through advisory, investor readiness, GTM strategy, and founder support services. And Founder Thursday is a monthly learning series where founders learn directly from experienced founders, operators, and investors through practical conversations like this one. Today's theme is bootstrapping to traction, building a startup without investor money. We often hear about fundraising, but before funding comes traction, and before investors comes execution. So today we'll be exploring how founders can validate their ideas, attract customers, and build sustainable businesses even without external capital. And that's exactly what Charles Ademola will be helping us unpack today. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Charles Ademola. Charles is the founder and CEO of Quick Invoice, co-founder and CEO of Binary, and founder of Rentals Africa. Across these ventures, he is experienced firsthand what it takes to build, execute, and grow with limited resources. Today, we'll be sharing practical lessons on building traction before fundraising, making smart decisions with limited resources, and knowing when it's the right time to raise. Please join me in welcoming Charles Ademola. Charles, we're excited to have you. The floor is yours. Founders, please a round of applause for Charles. Let's welcome Charles Founders. Please.
Hi, hi,
Welcome.
hi everyone. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good
Uh,
afternoon.
can you hear me? Can you guys hear me too?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. When Blessing said a round of applause, so Charles, I was actually smiling because I couldn't hear you. All right. My name is Charles Ademola Akin, and it's really a great pleasure to be here. Actually. When Blessing reached out to me that I'll be speaking on this topic, I almost said, wow, flesh and blood is not revealing this to you. Because I've had, I've been privileged to have experience in this particular topic, and clearly have experience, some are not particularly some are particularly unpleasant, right? And I actually love to use my experience to guide many people that are close to me so that they don't make some mistakes I made in my editing as a founder, right? So what we are talking about today is bootstrapping your way to traction without investors' money. I will be giving actionable insights, right? And I would more like be telling some of my stories, right? So that people can learn from it, right? I personally became an advocate for bootstrapping because we eventually get forged uh, into into a different version. Sorry, into a different version of ourselves as we make progress in our journey. Right. So I'll start now. Many the conception or the misconception many founders often have is that it is investment that build enterprise or that build startup. But that is not particularly correct. It is founders that build startup, right? It's not necessarily external investment, right? Now, uh, if you are actually not able to get your business started by yourself, I don't think that you should actually be asking for any for this money. So this will lead me to define what bootstrapping is. Many of us are already familiar with bootstrapping is, right? Bootstrapping simply means using your own resources to build your venture, right? Using your own resources to build your venture until a point of validation. Now, there are some advantages that come with bootstrapping. But the one that seems most obvious to people is it gives you control over your business. Yes, why that is very obvious. For me, from my own experience, and I'm going to be sharing a story that actually goes along with this, is that it enables your vision to keep on moving, undiluted. The mistake many founders actually make is that I'm I'm going to be like I told you yesterday that I'm not going to come here with a note. I will be giving practical and actionable insights from my own experience, right? So just taking that anything I'm going to be sharing with anybody here today by the privilege of grace is from my own experience and my own personal philosophy. If I will be giving any quotes, right? So this is what I believe. I've been able to found four different startups. Uh, the first startup I founded, which is fintech, I founded the one I was in Europe before I came to Nigeria. Right now, but before going into that, I was actually saying something that one of the mistakes that people, rather, one of the conceptions that founders actually often have is to think that the only advantage bootstrapping gives them is it gives them control, absolute control over their business. What that is true. What the other advantage it also gives you is that it ensures that your vision is not diluted. When you are starting a business or you have an idea upon which you want to build your startup, it is a vision, right? There's a particular problem you want to solve. You have it in mind. You see this problem and you think, okay, this is the best way to solve this problem, right? Now, that is good. Now, immediately you now start going everywhere. Well, let me say, okay, based on that particular vision, you build your pitch deck, right? Maybe luckily enough, you get investors' money, a 1 million naira, 2 million, whatever amount. Immediately, this money start coming in at a very, very early stage. Your vision start getting diluted because there is no way anybody is going to give you 5 million naira at the very at an ideal stage, and they wouldn't want to have a say. Now, note that when you met this investor, you had a vision. It was that vision that created that pitch deck. When you dilute that vision, even maybe some of us actually did chemistry, maybe by 0.56, uh, whatever it is, measurement, you have actually transition from it being an acid to it being basic, or from it being basic to it being acidic. So it means that that vision now being diluted may not necessarily bring the initially or proposed results you had in mind. Now, people go ahead now to now want to execute on this. You cannot execute on Maria's vision. It will be impossible, right? Now, let me give a story, a very personal story to me, one that actually, to some extent, landed in police station when I got to this country. When we were building my first fintech, my first ever fintech, I was not in Nigeria, like I said. I wanted to build a product that is very, very much like what I was used to over there, right? And I remember my one of my product managers there because he mentioned that this we're building for Nigeria and it has to be like I had a vision, right? But I realized that well, I left Nigeria a very long time. So before I left Nigeria, there was no like food tech or things like that. So I was very, very disconnected from the reality. Now I and I thought, okay, for this thing that we needed to build now, it will be important for us to. Uh, I saw people raising funding. I saw people raising. I said, okay, let us raise funding as well. That was the gross mistake, right? Because what I could have simply done is to build. Let us solve a particular problem that is pressing currently in the Nigeria or economy or in the Nigeria market instead of me trying to bring an European idea and want to use people's money to build it and push it to Nigeria. So there was no any form of validation before we even raised any. before we go and start to ask for people's money. We went ahead, we built this idea, and it was time to push it into the Nigerian market. The product didn't really do well as we anticipated, right? Because, like I mentioned, my vision has been diluted clearly because of the investors' money that we got at a too early stage, right? I got to Nigeria. And one of the investors said that okay, they needed their cash back since there was no revenue, and I tried to explain that okay, we also we put our own money to it, it didn't work. There was something like that. I had to actually refund that. It wasn't a pleasant experience, right? And I wouldn't want anybody to also fall into that same trap, right? So I often tell people that before you actually go here and there to collect people's money to build anything, I think to some extent, even if it will take you losing some money while trying to validate that idea, go ahead. It is best you lose your own money than to lose people's money because so when it comes to money, people draw boundaries, right? So that is one experience. But now that I have 30 minutes to speak and we have a 45 minutes altogether, but I will try to touch on many points I have highlighted here. Now, given that experience, what are the advantages of bootstrapping? Bootstrapping actually helps you to be very, very resourceful. When the time came for me to now start building my preceding ventures and startups, like mentioned Quick Invoice, Rentals Africa, which is a prop tech slash traveling platform, and finally, I nobody. In fact, I think maybe I'll say I was traumatized. I stayed away from collecting people's money. Doesn't matter how rich my network was or is. I that experience I that experience actually taught me very, very serious lesson. Yes, we're able to pay the money back, but I realized that the money collected was not the problem. But we collected money from investors at a very, very wrong stage, right? So, bootstrapping now forced me to become resourceful. There were things we were paying some people to do. Now, because these things I would have done them normally by myself. I'm a trained software engineer. I studied software engineering in European University in Cyprus. So there were things I am trained to do, but because I wanted to feel like yeah, I'm a founder, we should have. I don't know. I want to feel like okay, this is how and you have this. I don't want to get my hand dirty. Let's just do this. Let somebody else do this. Let somebody else do this. It was laziness lurking around me and masking itself to me as though making myself feel as though I am so important that I shouldn't get my hand dirty or something, which was very, very wrong. I should get my hand dirty. I should have done that. If I we wasted some of those money there because some of the things that we paid for, I should have paid for them. Now, when I started to bootstrap, building with my own money, there were three things. One, like I mentioned, it has to be resourceful. I have to go and learn how to do something. Now I can do email marketing. I have to go and learn how to do email marketing. Right? This is something that I would have had to pay somebody to do before. I have to go and learn how to do email marketing, how to do some basic design, right? How to do some things that I would have paid people to do, thereby stretching my mind, thereby expanding my bucket of skills. Two, it helps me to become very, very mindful in spending. Since now me they bring the money from my pocket now, I'm not just going to go and unnecessarily churn out 500,000 to do what is not what I can't even validate if it will work or not. I become very, very frugal with spending. It helps you to be very, very frugal with spending because I think for me it is utmost. This is me speaking by the way. It is utmost an act of irresponsibility to spend somebody's money anyhow just because it is not coming from your pocket, just because it's not coming from your purse. And I think that was one of the mistakes we made in those days because luckily, I have within my network, we able to raise some millions of naira, even that I was not in the country. And because the money kept coming, we were spending it. I wouldn't say wastefully, but I would say we were spending it in a way we shouldn't have, right? And it bloated the whole vision, right? Now, bootstrapping will help you to be resourceful. It will help you to be mindful in spending, right? That is, it will help to be able to do that. Then, with other advantage that I actually highlighted, let's say will give me some time to uh, actually uh, highlight them. Now, it helps you, and one of the advantages of bootstrapping, the last example I'm going to give you is that it helps you to actually to be creative in your problem solving, right? Because now you will want to build tailored specifically to what users are going to pay for. Because you have been spending your money, you need this money back. You need this money back into your pocket. So you are not just going to do trial by error. If this feature does not work, let us try this. Because not be your money they use to pay you that. It's it will help you to be creative. Right. So the first thing I actually said when we started this section is that bootstrapping or startups are actually built by founders, not particularly with investors' money. Right. So that said, highlighting the advantage of bootstrapping, right? I will, because I know that we're running with time here. I have so many things to say, but I'm just cutting them short. I hope we are going to have that session where I'll be able to properly expatiate on everything I have highlighted down here. Now, the question may now want to be, when can I raise funding, or when can I raise money? I will start with this. Is this really compulsory to raise funding? To be very, very honest, given my years of experience in this industry, it is not compulsory. Is it important? Yeah, it is important to some extent, but it is not really compulsory. We have ventures today, we have startups, we have enterprises today that got bootstrapped from beginning to $1 billion technology today. I happen to have a meeting with the regional head of Zoho here in Abuja some few months back, and he gave me some insight into how Zoho started. Right, I think it is a very very obvious example of an enterprise that bootstrapped its way to a unicorn. Right now, um, I was saying that when is the right time? Right, is it really compulsory to raise funding? Yeah, I don't really think it's compulsory based on my own experience, but it is important for some ventures to raise funding, especially if you are into hardware businesses or something that is more physical that demands maybe ordering. But largely, if it's software inclined, I don't really think it's necessary. But when can you raise funding? I believe this. This is my own belief. I believe funding should only be raised to accelerate a business that already works. That means you must have been able to validate that, excuse me, okay, you must have been able to validate that this business is working. Because, like I said earlier, I think it would be a gross act of irresponsibility to go around and collect people's money to accelerate or to try to scale a business that you can't even validate that it will work. And I will branch off to saying that it is not investors that will validate that your business is working. I'm a very, very practical somebody. I'm a very, very practical person. I don't really believe in theory. I know what I mean. If you come to me to invest in your business, I'm not particularly interested in your business, right? I want to see the business work. And you can only validate that the business works or that the business can work? From your customers. So it means that if it's a business that needs to be that some services needs to be paid for, if you can get at if let me say because it is possible that maybe you want 100 customers that you got at first, that it is very very possible that you may find only uh, maybe 5 or 6 customers pay. At least they are paying. They found your idea important and value enough to pay for it. That is the ultimate validation you need. Now you follow up on this customer that pay. If you need me to improve on this, what would it be? Like, right? So that is that. So it is only customers that can actually validate your idea. And the second point I want to make, talking about when you can bootstrap, sorry, when you can fundraise, I mentioned that you should only raise money to accelerate the growth of a business that is working. I do not think that you should use people's or use investment to rescue a business. There was a wave, I call it a wave of several founders raising money uh, in Nigeria specifically. You wake up today, you hear that this founder is $500,000. You wake up tomorrow, you hear that this founder is $1 million. As a matter of fact, I happen to have a friend that also raised at least $100,000. When one of them was sharing his experience with me when I got to Nigeria, and it was like, they raise money in thousands of dollars now. They have to pay investors in the US back in, of course, still in the same currency, but that happened to fall in the time when the naira was devaluated. It was excruciating, right? Now, uh, uh, that was not a good experience for him. I was saying that, I was saying that, so you shouldn't use people's money to rescue a business that is not working. So now, you now observe that during that period, let me conclude this, there was a wave of people raising funding. Some of us are here, we saw it then. This person raised 2 million. And you now discover that about 2, 3 years down the line, there was a follow-up wave of this business shut down. This startup packed up after raising, and trust my people at Tech about and techness, they will tell you that after raising, did they not raise? You know what? There was even one guy that raised $2 million. That is quite a lot of money. How? Like, and the reason is very obvious. You couldn't even validate that the idea of the business will work or it will work before going to actually raise people's money. Now, what this does is that going forward, that particular founder, you have you have tampered with your integrity in the ecosystem. You can't come back in the next few years and say and start to try to put investors together to they will check your history. So so these are valid reasons for why you should bootstrap to an extent before it's and I said you can you can only validate that the idea is working from your customer. Investors can go through your pitch deck and say, okay, there's a very valid idea. This because of this, I will give you money, which is very 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 possible, which is very practicable. We have seen it. It is good so in some cases. Sometimes it boomerangs, but I believe that you should only let your customer validate your idea. And lastly, I will put this. I will say this: when how can you actually bootstrap your way to traction? Find a particular problem and solve it. And solve it exceptionally well. When we started Quick Invoice, for example, what the problem that I observed was that when I got to Nigeria, I people rendered services to me. In most cases, the thing is to give me invoice or receipts. They just it was in I left the country coming back. A lot of things have changed, but they didn't give me. Nobody will give me invoice. Nobody. If I will get invoice, we paper invoice in a lot And I'm a very, very digitally inclined person. So it means that I can get the receipt for the invoice and I'll be watching the response until I spin it for some reason I can get it, it can be misplaced. Okay, how do I take record of what I've just purchased? So that the day after, will you still this thing or not? There's no record, there's no invoice, there's no receipt. And the reason is because either I was not given receipt or I was not given a invoice. I cannot stand to say, I want to go and look for trend and do it for me. What if they are really displaying the original one that is in there? We have to we started to we started by solving, okay, what to help Nigeria business? So issuing invoices as digitally as possible. Our first version of invoice was like you know, no, so those of us that are Christians, you know, it called scroll, the scroll that the God gave to Moses. It was not particularly uh, pleasantly looking, but yeah, we were solving the problem. But the validation key, when a customer paid, despite the fact that the invoice was not most pretty in look, right? And we know that we need to do better with that. Because we completely like Zoho in this country. We know that we need to do better in the aesthetics. We needed to. Eventually, we got it right. And today, we have we have you know how I call it customers that keep coming back, subscribing, pro users, 3,000 naira per month, 10,000 naira per month, enterprise users. We have that now, and that is because a particular customer was able to help us validate the fact that our solution was needed. So we started with solving just we want to help businesses to issue invoice, right? And we try to solve that very, very well. That this particular invoice, so if not this one particular problem we want to solve, we solve it very, very well. So that when you give your invoice to somebody, they'll say, where did you issue it? Where did you, how were you able to do it? Right? And any other features on our platform today is an offshoot of the invoice activity. We just started to solve. So now we bootstrapped. That means our cloud services monthly before we are now using our revenue to pay for cloud services now. Before that time, I have to bring it from my purse, right? Because yes, people are using, and at the point they want to use our extent before they started to pay. Eventually, they started to pay, right? So it is very important that on I'll close with this before any question comes. It is very, very important to note that if customers have to validate your business first before an investor can validate your company. It is very, very important, right? And it is important you let customers validate your business. It gives you peace of mind. I'm actually serious. It gives you peace of mind, like, okay, you know that even though it is 100K revenue you are making per month, you can be very, very sure that it will only increase arithmetically, right? In a arithmetic progression or a geometric progression, whichever you want to put it, it will only increase. It can only get better. But if you're making 100,000 naira monthly in revenue, even though it will not be up to the cost, or even though you are more broken, even if that accumulating so that cost will really important, at least you are making revenue. And it, if investors eventually, or when investors eventually want to come, you will be the one to dictate the terms. Somebody trying or not somebody imposing terms on you. Right? So it is very, very important to let customers validate your business before an investor come in to validate the company. Which I think, in fact, until the first happens, I don't really think that the second is going to happen. So I think I'll pause there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Charles. That was really, really insightful. Founders, let's give a round of applause for our speaker. I mean, I got to learn a lot, which was really eye-opening. So before we open the floor for questions, I actually have um, one question to ask, and that would be if you were starting from scratch today with no funding, what are the first three things you would focus on?
Okay. If you are starting from scratch today with no funding, what are the first things you focus on?
Yeah.
Uh, Let me use my personal experience to answer this. After the challenge we had with my first meeting first, I thought to myself that we needed to build something, we needed to do something, but I wanted to start from scratch because what are the things that I need to be done, that I needed to be done, it requires some skills. Like I said, I'm a trained software engineer. However, in the university curriculum, there's no way they are going to teach you React or teach you Angular or teach you Node.js specifically. So I went ahead, learned this specifically. Not the thing is, it was easy because yeah, I have a background, right? I learned the skills that I needed to build that business. My first goal was not to go and be living for people's money because I had not spent somebody's money that when I entered the country, I almost landed in a police station. And the question that police were asking me that, Mr. Charles, did they put the money to your account? I think yes, I did, but it's not the business money. It doesn't matter. This is only into your account details and you have to pay back my account details. So now because I know very important. Before I build anything, I actually need to actually what does it take to build it? I don't really think it is the first thing people have to think is how much. No, it is not the how much. What does it take to build it? Is there any skill I can learn? It will take time, but you will learn it. And it gives you will find yourself more grounded in your own product. Nobody can come and push it to you and tell you what's not right. So I think that if you're starting from scratch, me, from my own personal experience, I actually it is important you go and learn what it takes to do that business first, right? And if you're able to do that, I think other things will naturally open up. To be very, very, to be very, very honest, and I'm giving this from my own practical experience, and that's how we do it good.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Charles. We have a question from Sean over to our audience. If you have any questions, founders, please just signify by raising your hands or typing that in the chat box. So, the first question we have here is Mr. Sheon, and his question is: At Geeks Challenge, we are currently between crossroad to obtain a gaming license, which costs a fortune and is compulsory before we can launch. What do you suggest we do? Raise the capital required for license from family and friends, or still continue to bootstrap in this case?
Okay, my first question to my question to Mr. Sheon or whoever has the question is that do you by any chance have any customer actually even if it is one that has paid for this business or is paying for this business? So we have to have background, but we are willing to pay but there are no that we okay. I think this is it right. This is my own advice, right? If I am to advise you, I think before you actually see, this is my advice, and I'm giving you this advice as honestly as I don't want you to run into problem. Sometimes as founders we get excited by what we are building and uh, we we don't necessarily know how to market something we have to right. I stressed on something validation from your customer. And the validation from your customer can only be where please sir, I will advise that if you can have at least let they are only to pay right, okay, let at least 3 or 4 customers pay. Because see, if you can go ahead based on your network, they can raise the money for the capital fee. You raise millions of dollars going to feel like say, what if the market react differently in the way you didn't anticipate? Right. So I would say if you can validate that, customers will at least pay. Even the minimum, like I said, cooking when the minimum subscription is 3,000 per month and the enterprise is paying 10K per month. So we started with having knowing that okay, customers could pay 3K per month and enterprise okay. So if businesses want to have all their businesses together in one single dashboard, let us actually implement that feature and we integrated it and made it enterprise. Right? And they paid. If they paid, they are paying. Right. So I would advise us that even though it is true or a customer, let them pay first. That that will boost your morale. Like okay, so that when you are talking to any investor, they will give you a listening ear. They will take a better that okay, if you are talking to another person, for example, I will if anybody can pay for your idea, who am I not to pay? I will invest my money into it because to be very honest, something like license, a lot of time requires that you raise capital for it, right? Because licenses are largely used to sitting an FCC license. It can be a little bit expensive. I don't know how you do it in the industry, but if I want to advise you, I think I would just advise that just let about 12 customers pay first. If they can do that, then go ahead and use that as your starting point when you're talking to people that will give you money. Don't collect money based on assumption that they are willing to pay. People, human beings, according to economics, we are we have a very dynamic behavior. So that's it. So,
All right. All right. Thank you so much for that, Charles, and thank you for the question. Sure. We have Kende raising his hands up. Please go ahead with your question.
good afternoon. This guy is
Yes, we can.
sorry that I'm taking on the name, but I don't want to make it. My question is, having then I didn't say anything. Which I understand last year, so we can take it out. Now we are done with the MVP. To get the MVP done, I actually have to get money from family and friends to pay developers. Even some of them are my friends, so we actually have to pay this down for it. So the best way we can introduce this application to students is going to their campus. But most times when we are here on any campus, we are being restricted by students giving information. I'm not allowed to do that. Secondly, are you on it? I think I don't know that I can't clearly hear you. Maybe it's
Can you type your question in the chat box, Kende? We can't hear you
okay, yes.
clearly. Kindly type your question in the chat box.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so we have another question from Clara. And she asks, what of a situation why you need your MVP up and running before any customers can be a part of the business? It's the funds to build the MVP that we are struggling to raise.
Can you come in the first part of the question?
What of a situation? Please give me a minute. Okay, the first part of the question was, what of a situation why you need your MVP up and running before any customers can can be parts of the business? It's the funds to
Okay,
build the MVP that we're struggling to raise.
okay. I remember. I think I answered. If I answered my question, I think I touched on it before it's being asked now. I said, depending on the business you're trying to start, my question to the person will be, if the person can hear us or hear me, is it a software business? If it's a software business, are the skills required to build it learnable? Is it something you can learn, right? The, one of the mistakes that people make while starting out in or an enterprise like this is wanting to do everything at once. Now, and to lead me to the other question, that is it possible you put out one feature first based on what you can do? You see, you know the reason why I am I am I'm giving advice that are not like in a sandbox environment. At least I'm trying to urge founders to be careful. It's, I have landed in police station because I collected money too early from investor. Even though the money was actually going to the business, I don't think anybody wants to experience it, right? It is not pleasant, and it had a lot to do. It could. When we got to the stage, I was like, okay, my lawyer was there, and we were like, okay, this is not a criminal case. It's civil. Two of you just sit down. He put us in, I and him, in one corner. We should settle it. I made one or two calls right there. FCID in Abuja, raised all the funding and gave it to me. You do not want to experience that because we went ahead to collect to raise money and uh, build something and without even validating it first. I I paid the price, right? Luckily, the other money that we got were from those that are like fathers to me, so they didn't even think of anything. They gave me like, okay, possible you move. So I will urge that if there's anything you can do by yourself before collecting people, just do it. Get the MVP. It's called MVP. It's the most minimum viable product. Right? The minimum. At least you want to put this out there, even though it's not a package. Would people use it? Okay. So that's it. But uh, you can still meet family and friends. If you think that the skills are not learnable, like I said, if it's a software business, I believe strongly that if you have enough materials on YouTube online to learn, right? It will cost you some data. I think the sacrifice will be worth it at the end of the day. Because when you can learn how to do it, you will find yourself spontaneously building and stacking up the product as time goes on, right? So if you are able to actually, unless the skills are not learnable, and if the skills are not learnable, if it's something that you are thinking we are all tech fans, so I still believe that the skills should be learnable, right? I strongly believe the skills should be learnable. Unless it is not learnable, then I will know what to say next. So that is just my own advice. Here we are trying to let you understand the importance of bootstrapping. It's very, very important.
All right, thank you for that question and thank you for your response, Charles. So we have Nicholas and Ogechi, and that's the last two questions we are taking. Nicholas, please unmute and ask your question, and Ogechi go after. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles, for the insightful presentation and sharing of the skills
Please
today.
let's try to keep our questions under few minutes as the time is past spent. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, mine is not specifically a question per se, because I myself am a pro, I'm a pro bootstrapping founder, and I totally subscribe to the philosophy bootstrapping that everything from his experience. And I just wanted to um, say something to Mr. Babajide, Mr. Achibati, about your gaming license thing. If you, I don't know whether it's iGaming or on this betting platform or something, but if it's that, I would say, adding to what Charles said, have you tried to explore partnerships with already existing brands like maybe say Betway or Bet Niger or any of these brands that you can partner with and
Sean, the
to
question was
if you already
directed
have
at you.
customers, if you maybe you can explore those because I was trying to go into that this and according to my research, what I found out is that if you don't have the capital for your license, your gaming license, you can route it through partnership, you know, and then you'll be able to eventually gain some traction and then move on from there. So, Yeah, so that's what I wanted to add to what that's good. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nicholas. Thank you so much, sir.
Shion, did I catch that question or the answer? Okay, he has responded.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
All right. Ogechi, over to you.
Okay. Good afternoon. Please confirm that you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm using section Charles. It was quite insightful, and a good happy founder as well, working in payment infrastructure. I understand exactly what you're saying because everything from what we built at Plumbox is built from scratch with hands, and even tools that I have not tried before, I have to learn them to do some certain kind of things. And that's why I want to ask you because you mentioned something about email marketing. That is where I am at this particular point in time. I know I've been there, I use some tools, but I want to know if you can share a tool that works for you because and it's quite inexpensive and particularly a tool that I can use to automate email marketing. Like,
Charles, did you catch that?
I think you will.
He dropped off. Just give me a minute. Let me try to.
Hi, everyone. Can you guys hear me, please?
Yes, yes, we can.
I'm so sorry. My internet went off. I don't know why. So sorry about it. Okay, she was asking a question.
You didn't get the question.
No, my Wi-Fi went off while you started. I'm so sorry. Just
Okay, let me just go straight forward. My question was, since you did email marketing at a particular point in time, do you have like any tool that you could share that can make it a little bit easier or any course you took that gave you clarity?
yes, yes. I have a tool I can share. The I have a tool I can share. Right. The platform I often use for my own email marketing is Loop. I will share that with Blessing after this. Possibly she can pass it to you. That's the platform I use. And I use Loop specifically because the emails actually it lands directly in the inboxes of whoever the target audience are. Because there are some platforms you will use, even though it is even because you are using free service at first,
Yeah.
the message or the email will land in their spam boxes. And by default, I don't think by default anybody will post spam, right? So, but Loop is not like that. So Loop actually routes your email directly to the inbox and primary inbox of the audience, whether you are using email or you are a pro user, right? So as for the as for the if I have any course I took, I think I always say I took a course because the design of the email for the I wrote the design in HTML. So what you just do is that well, you design the HTML file, like I turn it to zip file, then I upload it into the platform to see the way to that. So most of the email you see from your most of your providers are always like that, right? So that's the way it was. But I can recommend the platform is Loop. I think Loop.io. I think it's Loop.io. I'm not particularly sure. I know it's one.
L-O-O.
Yes, Loop.io. I think it's at Loop.io. It's an
Okay.
email. Have you seen it?
No, I'm still on it.
Okay, that is the platform. I'll be specific. Well, after the session, I can share with Blessing so that she can share with you.
All right.
Okay,
So,
please, I would like that.
last question before we wrap up. This is going to be very quick. We have a question from Swap now, and it says, which areas in marketing should one spend money on? Which ones have better return on investment?
Uh, which area in marketing should I spend on? Okay, okay, I can have better idea. Okay, this okay. Since you want to spend money on marketing, I will actually recommend Google Ads, right? And the reason why I recommend Google Ads because of the large uh, array of data that Google has access to. They are able to use your location to map out automatically or algorithmically map out who or who your target audience or your target audiences they have. Now, they will not only push your ads across um, platforms that permit ads like websites and things like that. They will also push your ad automatically to Google, sorry, to YouTube, right, to Google and to other platforms that are within the Google ecosystem, right? So that is the advantage that Google has gives you. Because I'm specifically saying Google because you said if you want to spend money on, because Google has is it's a little bit expensive, talking about $100 in cases, or depends on if you buy a good deal with some partners. But if not that direction, you can actually just go with social media ads,
All
right? But
right.
Google has a really give you a very good ad.
All right.
That's
Thank
it.
you so much for that, Charles, and every founder that present, every founder that asked question. Thank you so much for your presence, and I'm very sure we're able to get one or two from Charles's experience. And Charles, thank you once again for sharing so openly with our community and with our founders. We truly appreciate your time, your honesty, and the practical insights you shared today. And with that, we all say thank you and we appreciate you. Let's give a round of applause to Charles. Yeah, so I
Uh,
shared I shared his LinkedIn handle in the chat box. Please you can connect to Charles on LinkedIn and follow him as well. And his startup as well. I shared both LinkedIn addresses. All right. So before I wrap up, I want to leave everyone with one thought. Today's session reminds us on It reminds us that building a successful startup isn't defined by how much money raised, but also the ability to solve real problems, create value, and build something customers genuinely want. Funding can accelerate growth. That is one thing I've learned, but it cannot replace education. All thanks to Charles. And a quick one Today, if today's conversation helped you identify gaps in your growth strategy, customer acquisition, or fundraising readiness, that's exactly what we help founders do at the Founders Ally through our clarity calls, GTM strategy support, investor readiness advisory, and pitch deck development, as well as our newly introduced initiative, which is co founder matchmaking. We are here to end person as a founder and we work alongside founders to help them build businesses that are ready to grow and are ready for investment when the time comes. If you'd like us to help you identify your next strategic move, I would encourage you to book a free founder clarity call with us. The link to booking is in the chat box as well. And before you leave, please take a minute to complete our feedback form. Your feedback would help us make each session even better. And with that, thank you to everyone present. Thank you for investing in your growth. Keep building.